thanks to all of you for being on here. It seems like on day 30 of the 2023 session, we're back on sine die of 2022 because what we're all talking about once more is vehicular pursuit. And it seems like we're in the same position as well. It's stuck in the Senate. We've got Democratic leadership and a committee chair that is refusing to move it. We have a bill over here in the House that has 20 co-sponsors, 20 Democratic co-sponsors that could be the tool that loosens all this up. I'll let Eric talk about that a little bit more. I very much appreciate the fact that the press has been all over this. We've included 20 stories over the last week in our Capitol Buzz. And we've also seen some cases that I very much appreciate. I think you've heard me say before that one of the hardest things to do in politics is admit you were wrong. And when you have 20 Democratic co-sponsors, that tells us that a lot of Democrats are ready to do the right thing. And to enlarge on that, I'll turn it over to Eric Robertson.
Thank you, JT. You're absolutely right. We're back where we were at just a little less than a year ago, and I'm hopeful that we can gain some momentum on the issue of police pursuits. Representative Rule and I have been working on promoting House Bill 1363. Last summer and fall we heard as my Democratic colleagues in and around the Puget Sound region in particular talked about how they supported expanding police pursuits. That did materialize somewhat with 20 co-sponsors on this important piece of legislation. However, we're not seeing that commitment from our Democratic colleagues to get this bill out of committee. It was scheduled for this Thursday to be voted out of committee. And breaking news this morning, unfortunately, there's allegedly not enough support on the Democratic side in the committee to vote that out, to send it to the floor for proper debate. And so that's after hearing all last summer and this fall about how important it was and how they were going to support it, hearing this morning that there's not enough support to even get it out of committee is really deflating. And so I'm hopeful that we can continue to work that. The Republican caucus is united. We've got, even if we took the 40 votes that we have and the 20 that were the co-sponsors, that's 60 votes in the House. So I don't see where there is an issue with moving it forward. We need to act on this now. I know there's calls to study the issue further. I think that's a great idea. We can always look at things as we go down the road. However, to fail to act on what is critical and important and a right now challenge is not in the best interests of the communities. We need to do that. The language is permissive. It puts a statewide standard around police pursuits, but communities can make their own, they can make their own decision as to whether those occur. And as I pointed out to some of my colleagues, what's good in Bellevue may not be all that bad in Buckley or Blaine. So we need to remember that we're creating statewide policy. And I really urge the chair of the House Public Safety Committee and the Senate Public Safety or Law and Justice Committee to act on this bill and keep it moving forward. And it's not just police that are crying for the change. We've got people from all of our communities saying the crime wave's too much. We need to act. We need to do something now. We've got a whole slate of bills to address the spike in crime. However, this one's really on the forefront because when you can run from police no matter what, that just sets the message for folks. But our business community, yesterday in a meeting, the Retail Association stood up and said, this is our #1 bill because it's affecting our stores, it's affecting our customers, and it's affecting our communities where we can't do business in a safe way. So I think we need to act now, and I'm going to pass it off to my great colleague, Kelly Chambers, who's going to tell us about one of our mutual constituents who really had a terrible experience when it came to the inability to pursue criminals.
Thanks, Eric. Good morning, everyone. Kelly Chambers, State Rep from the 25th Legislative District. And I wanted to bring your attention back to a situation and why restoring vehicle pursuit is so important to our caucus and to many of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. This bill has such broad bipartisan support from the Canadian border down to Vancouver and Clark County. You might remember a situation that happened just a year ago, January 15th, a constituent in my district in the 25th, two 12-year-old girls that had a slumber party had gone up to the local elementary school and were walking home on a Sunday morning when they were hit in a hit and run by someone in a stolen vehicle that law enforcement was not able to pursue. That was all over every media outlet because everybody was looking for that stolen landscaping truck that killed little 12-year-old Immaculate Goldade and seriously injured her best friend, Kathleen Olson. This is not just about broken windows and stolen vehicles. This is about lives, and it is deadly for us not to address this vehicle pursuit issue this year, this legislative session, and this week. So with that, I just wanted to bring your attention back to it because it is so critically important. Yes, we understand that vehicle pursuits are inherently dangerous, and we want to give the tools to law enforcement to be able to make those decisions in real time where they can take all the circumstances into account based on how busy it is and the weather and traffic and who's on the road. And this is not about blowing through a school zone at 100 miles an hour in a reckless manner, but ensuring that the most dangerous elements of our society are taken care of, and that we give law enforcement the tools to do so. And to fail to act this session is deadly. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Senator Braun. Senator, you're muted.
There we go. So our colleagues in the House have done a great job of laying out this issue, and I know it's an issue almost everybody's tracking right now. I'll just add a couple what I think are key points. One, they want to talk on data. The data couldn't be more clear. We have a 150% increase in folks fleeing our law enforcement officers, reported by the State Patrol. We have a 50% increase in stolen cars. This law, as it stands, based on a probable cause standard instead of a reasonable suspicion, which 49 out of 50 states use, we are the outlier, is emboldening criminals. I think Eric said it well. It is emboldening criminals to be more aggressive and therefore more dangerous to our communities and to our families. It couldn't be more clear. The other thing I'd like to point out is, we get a lot of discussion around here from our colleagues on the other side of the aisle about listening to lived experiences. We hear that about almost every social issue here, and yet they are absolutely unwilling at this point to listen to the lived experiences of law enforcement officers across our state, and I think even more importantly, to victims across our state. They have become, I would say, obtuse when it comes to listening to folks who are dealing with these very serious and dangerous issues, and it shouldn't be tolerated. What we have right now is frankly unimaginable based on comments made over the last year by our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. They're not even it's not that they're not going to agree with us, they're not even going to allow debate on this issue on the floor of the House or the Senate. That's just unconscionable. There's no way this should happen. And let's be clear, these are bills, both in the House and the Senate. It's 53, 52 in the Senate and 1363 in the House. These are both bills that are not identical, but virtually identical to bills that passed off the Senate floor with, I think, 32 votes and the House floor with 86 votes. These are strong bipartisan sport if they come to a vote. But there's a small group in each caucus who are working feverishly to keep them from even coming for a vote. That should not be acceptable. So I don't think there's much more to say on this. I'll stop there and turn, for me at least, turn it over to my colleague over here, Keith Beigener.
Yeah, well, I do have a little bit more to say on that. I have the sometimes pleasure and sometimes discomfort to sit on the Senate Law and Justice Committee. And I want to echo what Representative Robertson said about a failure of commitment. Even though privately, some of the folks on the other side of the aisle say they want to work with us on this issue, when it comes to a vote, and I'm going to point specifically to Senator Lovick's pursuit bill, 5533, which we all agree is a good bill, and we need to look into how we do pursuits in Washington. But I had an amendment which would have tied that to action, action now. And the chair would not even allow that amendment to be heard in committee. So that tells me that there's a bit of disingenuousness to this idea that they're willing to take real action this session. And I would hate for this bill, Senator Lovick's a thoughtful bill, to be used simply as a smokescreen for inaction. And I feel that's how it's being used right now. Because if we don't act, we're failing our people. I'll stop there.